John Kennedy saw a pregnant woman working hard at a gas station. What he did next will surprise you. Under the flickering fluorescent lights of Pete's fuel stop, a modest gas station perched on the corner of two bustling roads in the suburbs of Louisiana, Anna Carter stood behind the counter, her weary smile a shield against the exhaustion that weighed on her 8-month pregnant body. Her swollen feet ached from hours of standing, each step a reminder of the long night shift stretching ahead. But Anna had learned long ago to keep smiling through the pain. A lesson from her mother. No matter how tough life gets, baby girl, you keep that smile, it's your strength. The clock on the wall ticked past 11:30 p.m. The hum of the lights, and the occasional howl of the winter wind outside, the only sounds breaking the stillness. The station, usually alive with the comings and goings of truckers and late-night commuters during the day, was now a quiet island in the dark, its aisles of snacks, drinks, and car supplies bathed in a harsh glow. Anna shifted her weight, trying to ease the pressure on her aching ankles, and gently rubbed her round belly, whispering, "Just a few more hours, little one. Mama's almost done." The baby responded with a strong kick, a tiny spark of life that brought a flicker of joy to her tired face. I know," she murmured. "Mama's tired too." Life hadn't been kind to Anna lately. Her husband, David, had lost his job at the steel factory 3 months ago, when the company shut down without warning, leaving hundreds of workers, including him, scrambling for new opportunities. The timing couldn't have been worse. With their first child due in just a few weeks, the medical bills were already piling up, even with the basic insurance Anna's job provided. And the thought of the hospital costs for the delivery made her stomach churn. She pushed the worry aside, focusing on the task at hand, restocking the candy bars near the counter, her hands moving methodically despite the dull ache in her lower back. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, sending a chill through the glass, and Anna pulled her thin sweater tighter around herself, grateful for the faint warmth of the station's old heater. Her winter coat no longer fit over her belly, but she wouldn't complain. She had a job, which was more than many could say in these tough times. Glancing at her reflection in the window, she saw the dark circles under her eyes, the telltale signs of too many sleepless nights and too many worries. But she fixed her smile in place, just as her mother had taught her, determined to keep going for her family, for her baby. Anna pulled out her phone, her thumb brushing over the lock screen a photo of David in his factory uniform, grinning proudly in front of the plant where he'd worked for 5 years. He was out now, likely at another job interview, his third this week. She believed in him with every fiber of her being, but the rejections were wearing him down, his shoulders a little heavier each time he came home, trying to hide his disappointment. "Your daddy's a good man," she whispered to her belly, "the best man I know. He just needs someone to give him a chance." The baby kicked again, as if in agreement, and Anna's smile softened. The bell above the door chimed, snapping her back to the present. A young man, barely out of his teens, shuffled in, his hands shoved deep into his pockets against the cold. "Welcome to Pete's," Anna called out, her voice bright despite the late hour, as if her back wasn't screaming, as if she wasn't worried sick about their future. The boy nodded, his eyes darting toward the drink coolers, and Anna watched him through the security mirror in the corner, not because she thought he'd steal, but because her boss, Pete, had trained her to keep an eye on late-night customers. Pete was a good man. When Anna had told him about David's job loss, he'd immediately offered her extra shifts. "You're my best worker, Anna," he'd said. "Always on time, always smiling. We take care of our own here." The extra hours helped, but they were still barely scraping by. The young man approached the counter with a can of energy drink, counting out exact change from a handful of coins, probably tips from a delivery job, Anna guessed, recognizing the tired look in his eyes, so like her own. "Stay warm out there," she said as he turned to leave. He paused, then flashed a genuine smile, his first of the night. "You too, ma'am, and congratulations," he added, nodding at her belly. "Thank you," Anna replied, her smile widening. These small moments of kindness from strangers were like lifelines, pulling her through the endless nights. After he left, Anna checked her task list. Restock the coolers, clean the coffee station, mop the floors. The floors would have to wait, her ankles couldn't handle it yet. Instead, she pulled out the stack of job applications David had asked her to pick up from stores on her way to work. She'd collected 5, and now she sat carefully filling them out, her handwriting neat and precise. David's hands shook too much these days when he tried to write stress, he said, though Anna worried it was something deeper, like the weight of despair settling in. "Your daddy's going to find something," she told her belly as she wrote, "and we're going to make sure you have everything you need." The baby kicked harder, and Anna had to pause, breathing through the sensation. Her doctor had warned her the baby was larger than average, which explained why every movement felt like a small earthquake inside her. "You're going to be strong like your daddy," she said, rubbing the spot, "and stubborn like your mama." A gust of wind made the windows rattle, and Anna shivered, pulling her sweater tighter. The station's heating wasn't great, but she was used to making do. She thought about the birthday card she'd received from her mother in Alabama, tucked into her purse with a $50 check inside, scribbled with a note, "For the baby." Anna knew her mother had saved for weeks to send that, and it had brought tears to her eyes. She was determined to save it for something special for the baby. Not just another bill. The hour dragged on, and Anna busied herself with small tasks, reorganizing the cigarette display, wiping down the counter for the 3rd time, checking expiration dates on the cigar boxes. Keeping busy kept her mind off her aching body and the gnawing worry about their future. Just before 1 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text from David. "No luck at the auto shop, but I've got 2 more interviews tomorrow. Love you both." Anna's heart squeezed at the words, sensing the discouragement he tried to hide. She typed back quickly, "We love you too. I've got some applications filled out for you. You're going to get something soon, I know it." She added a heart emoji, then slipped the phone into her pocket as a vehicle pulled up to the gas pump outside. It was a sleek black sedan, so clean it gleamed under the station's lights. Clearly expensive, the kind Anna only saw in commercials or passing through the wealthier parts of town. Her heart beat a little faster, though she couldn't say why. She told herself it was just another customer, but something about the car felt different, like a shift in the air. When the driver's door opened, a tall man stepped out, his presence commanding even from a distance. He wore a tailored suit under a long overcoat, and the way he carried himself made Anna stand a little straighter behind the counter. He reached for the pump, and Anna relaxed slightly. At least he knew how to pump his own gas. Some of their fancier customers expected her to do it for them, especially on cold nights like this, and her body wasn't up for that. But instead of starting the pump, the man stood there, looking through the store window. Anna's stomach fluttered with unease. Was he watching her? She busied herself with straightening the counter, sneaking glances at him through the security mirror. He pulled out a phone and began speaking. His voice muffled through the glass, but his tone serious, his free hand gesturing in a way that seemed oddly familiar, though she couldn't place why. Minutes passed, and he still hadn't pumped any gas. Anna's nervousness grew. Should she call Pete? He'd told her to trust her instincts about suspicious customers, and something about this felt off. But what would she say? There's a well-dressed man in a fancy car, acting strange? It sounded ridiculous. The baby kicked hard, and Anna gripped the counter, whispering, "Settle down. Mama's just being paranoid." Finally, the man ended his call and reached for the pump. Anna's tension eased. "See? Just a customer making a call. Nothing to worry about." But then he paused again, his hand on the nozzle, and turned to look directly at her through the window. The station's light fell across his face, and Anna's breath caught. She knew that face. Everyone in Louisiana knew that face. It was John Neely Kennedy, the U.S. Senator. His warm, folksy demeanor, a staple on local news. What was he doing at Pete's fuel stop at 1 a.m.? Before she could process it, the bell chimed, and a middle-aged woman in scrubs walked in, likely fresh off a hospital shift. Anna snapped into professional mode, ringing up the woman's coffee and gum. But her mind was racing. Was she imagining things? Why would a senator be here? She stole glances at the window, where Kennedy was now pumping gas. His movements calm and unhurried despite the cold. Up close, there was no mistaking him, the same kind eyes, the same distinctive jawline she'd seen in campaign ads. Anna smoothed her wrinkled work shirt, suddenly self-conscious about her disheveled appearance. Not that it mattered, he was just a customer, probably wouldn't even notice her. The pump clicked off, and Anna's pulse quickened. He'd have to come inside to pay. Should she act like she recognized him? Pete always said to treat every customer the same, but this was different. Her back seized with a sharp pain, and she grimaced, one hand supporting her lower back. 8 months pregnant and on her feet all night was no joke. But she couldn't afford to slow down, not with their bills and David's job search. Through the window, she saw Kennedy pause, looking at her again. His expression different, now thoughtful, almost concerned. Anna straightened quickly, embarrassed to be caught showing weakness, and busied herself with the register. The bell chimed again, but it wasn't Kennedy. A group of teenage boys burst in, laughing and shoving each other toward the snack aisle. Anna kept one eye on them. Late-night groups always made her cautious, and one eye on Kennedy, who was still outside, now typing on his phone, his tall frame half hidden in the shadows. The boys approached the counter, still horsing around, and Anna noticed one trying to slip a candy bar into his pocket. Her heart sank. She hated this part of the job. "Sir," she said firmly, meeting the boy's eyes, "please put the candy bar on the counter." The group fell silent. The boy started to protest, but Anna held his gaze, steady but kind. After a moment, he sighed, placed the candy on the counter, and muttered an apology. "Thank you," Anna said quietly, ringing it up. She could have called the police, but she remembered being young and foolish once. Sometimes people just needed a chance to do right. The boys paid and left, one of them scolding the would-be thief. "Man, stealing from a pregnant lady? That's low." Anna smiled to herself, then glanced at the window. Kennedy was gone. Her heart sank. Had he left? But his sedan was still at pump 2. Where was he? The bell chimed once more, and Anna's breath caught as John Neely Kennedy walked through the door. He was even taller in person, his presence filling the small store. Their eyes met, and to her surprise, he gave her a warm smile. "Good evening, ma'am," he said, his voice deep and pleasant. "Or I guess it's good morning by now." Anna found her voice. "Good morning, sir. Will that be all for pump 2? He nodded, still studying her with an expression she couldn't read. "I'd like to compliment you on how you handled those young men," he said. "That was impressive. Keeping your cool like that." Anna's cheeks warmed. "Thank you, sir. They're good kids. Just needed a reminder to do what's right." Kennedy's smile widened, and for a moment, Anna saw something like recognition in his eyes, as if her words had struck a chord. He pulled out his wallet, and Anna glimpsed a photo inside a woman, maybe his mother, before he handed her a credit card. As she ran it, she felt his eyes on her, and she stood straighter, ignoring her aching back. When she handed him the receipt to sign, he surprised her by asking, "How far along are you?" 8 months, she answered, her hand resting on her belly. "Just a few weeks to go." He nodded, his gaze softening. That can't be easy. Working the night shift like this. There was genuine concern in his voice, and for a moment, Anna felt tears prick her eyes. She was so tired of pretending everything was fine. But she smiled and said, "You do what you have to, right?" Something flickered in Kennedy's eyes, and he pulled out his phone, hesitating. "Mind if I make a quick call? It's important." "Of course not, sir," Anna replied. He stepped away, speaking in a low, intense tone. Anna caught fragments background check, employment history, and her heart skipped. Was he talking about her? No, that was silly. He was a senator, probably dealing with something unrelated. The baby kicked again, and Anna rubbed her belly, trying to focus on her tasks. Kennedy ended his call and returned to the counter, his expression now resolute. "Thank you for your patience," he said, pocketing his phone. "And thank you for your kindness tonight." Anna blinked, confused. "My kindness?" He just smiled. "Have a good night, Mrs. Carter. Take care of yourself and that little one." Before she could process that he knew her name, he was gone, the bell chiming as the door closed. Anna watched him drive away in his sedan, her mind spinning. How did he know her name? Why had he watched her so closely? What was that call about? She rubbed her tired eyes, wondering if she'd imagined the whole thing. But his signature on the receipt was real, proof that John Neely Kennedy had been here. As she returned to her tasks, a strange feeling settled over her, like the quiet before a storm. Little did Anna know, this encounter was only the beginning, and her life was about to change in ways she could never have dreamed. John Neely Kennedy steered his sleek black sedan through the silent streets of suburban Louisiana, the hum of the engine a faint counterpoint to the thoughts swirling in his mind. The image of Anna Carter, the pregnant woman working the night shift at Pete's fuel stop, lingered like a photograph he couldn't set down. Her tired but determined smile, the way she'd handled those rowdy teenagers with grace, the quiet strength in her voice when she'd said, "You do what you have to, right?" It all reminded him of his mother, Eleanor, who had toiled through long days and longer nights to keep their family afloat. Eleanor's words echoed in his memory. "Johnny, when you're in a position to help, you don't just look the other way. You act." Tonight, Kennedy felt that call to action burning in his chest, a spark he hadn't felt in years amidst the grind of political life. He pulled into an empty lot, the glow of distant streetlights casting long shadows across the dashboard, and reached for his phone. "Susan," he said when his personal assistant answered, his voice steady but urgent. "I need you to dig up everything you can on Anna Carter. Works the night shift at Pete's fuel stop out on Route 19. Family situation, work history, the works. Wake up whoever you need to, but I want it tonight." Susan, used to Kennedy's late-night requests but surprised by the specificity, hesitated. "Sir, it's past 1 a.m. "I know what time it is," Kennedy cut in, softening his tone. "This is important. Please." Susan agreed, and Kennedy hung up, his gaze drifting to the photo tucked in his wallet, a faded image of his mother in her nurse's uniform. Her face lined with fatigue, but her eyes bright with resolve. He traced the edge of the photo with his thumb, murmuring, "You'd have liked her, Mama. She's got your kind of fight." As he waited for Susan's report, Kennedy's mind replayed the scene at the gas station. He'd only stopped there by chance, needing fuel after a late fundraiser. But something about Anna had stopped him cold. It wasn't just her pregnancy or the late hour. It was the way she carried herself, like someone who'd been knocked down, but refused to stay there. He'd seen her wince when she thought no one was looking, her hand pressing against her back. Yet she'd kept that smile, kept serving customers with a warmth that felt genuine. It was the kind of strength his mother had shown, working double shifts at the hospital while raising 4 kids, never complaining, always finding a way. Kennedy knew Anna's story before Susan's email even arrived. He'd seen it in her eyes. the story of a family fighting to hold on. When his phone buzzed, he opened the report, his jaw tightening as he read. Anna Carter, 28, had been at Pete's for 3 years, never missing a shift, always earning praise from her manager, Pete, who called her the heart of the place. Her husband, David, 30, had been a shift supervisor at a steel factory until it shuttered, leaving him jobless. The couple had no criminal record, paid their bills on time until recently, when medical costs began to overwhelm them. Anna was working extra shifts against her doctor's advice, and their baby was due in 6 weeks. The insurance through Pete's was bare bones, with high deductibles that would bury them in debt after the delivery. Kennedy closed his eyes, the words blurring. It was his parents' story all over again. Hard-working people caught in a merciless tide of bad luck. He leaned back in his seat, the weight of the moment settling over him. He could walk away, send a check, or make a call to ease their burden. But that felt too small, too fleeting. Anna's strength deserved more than a bandage. It deserved a chance to shine. Kennedy dialed Susan again. I want to talk to the owners of Pete's Fuel Stop, the whole chain. Find out who's got the keys to that operation and get them on the phone by morning. I'm interested in buying. Susan's voice crackled with disbelief. Buying the chain, sir? That's a multi-million-dollar deal. We'd need weeks to. Then make it ours, Kennedy said firmly. I want a proposal ready by dawn. And Susan, there's a condition. Anna Carter gets promoted to regional manager for all Louisiana stations once she's back from maternity leave. Salary starts at $90,000. Full benefits, including comprehensive health coverage that takes care of her pregnancy and delivery costs. No negotiations on that? Susan paused, then said, I'll get it done, sir. Kennedy nodded to himself, adding, one more thing. Look into David Carter's work history. I want to know where he's applied, what he's good at. I've got an idea. He ended the call and stared out at the sleeping town, his mind racing with possibilities. Buying Pete's wasn't just about Anna, it was about every worker like her, scraping by in thankless jobs with no safety net. He'd seen too many families like the Carters in his years as a senator, their struggles drowned out by the noise of politics. But tonight, he could do something real. He called his chief of staff, Mark, waking him from a dead sleep. Mark, I need a job opening at the Senate office here in Louisiana. Technical maintenance. Someone with factory experience. David Carter's our guy. Same salary range as Anna's new role, plus benefits. Can you make it happen? Mark groaned but agreed. Used to Kennedy's relentless drive, I'll have HR drafted by 9 a.m., he said. Kennedy thanked him, then dialed his lawyer, Laura, to set up a trust fund for the Carters' unborn child, enough to cover 4 years at any university, plus graduate school if they want it, he instructed. Laura, bleary-eyed but sharp, questioned the scope. This is a big commitment, John. Are you sure? Kennedy's voice was unwavering. I'm sure. This isn't just about money, it's about giving that kid a shot at the life their parents are fighting for. By 3 a.m., the pieces were falling into place. Susan texted that the owners of Pete's were open to a meeting, intrigued by Kennedy's sudden interest. Mark confirmed the job posting was being prepared. Laura was drafting the trust fund paperwork. Kennedy felt a surge of purpose, the kind he'd felt in his early days as a public servant, before the cynicism of Washington had dulled his edges. He thought of his mother again, how she'd sit him down as a boy and tell him, "Success isn't about what you have, Johnny, it's about what you do for others." He'd built a career on that principle. But somewhere along the way, the daily grind of votes and speeches had made it harder to see the people behind the policies. Anna Carter had changed that. Her quiet courage had reminded him why he'd entered public life in the first place, not for the title, but for moments like this, when he could make a difference that lasted. Kennedy started his car, the dashboard clock glowing 3:30 a.m. He decided to drive back to Pete's fuel stop. Not to talk to Anna, she'd be finishing her shift soon. And he didn't want to overwhelm her, but to see the place again, to ground himself in the reality of what he was fighting for. When he pulled into the lot, the station was still lit. Anna visible through the window, wiping down the coffee station with the same care she'd shown all night. He didn't go inside, just watched for a moment, struck by how ordinary, yet extraordinary she was. He thought of the reporters he'd call in the morning, the story he'd share not for his own sake, but to show the world that people like Anna were the backbone of this country, deserving of more than just survival. He'd make sure her promotion, David's job, and the trust fund were announced publicly, not to boast, but to inspire others to look closer, to see the strength in the people they passed every day. As he drove home, the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, a soft pink bleeding into the sky. Kennedy felt lighter, as if he'd shed a weight he hadn't known he was carrying. He thought of his mother's favorite saying, "When you help someone, you don't just change their life, you change your own." Tonight, Anna Carter had done that for him, reigniting a fire he'd let dim. Tomorrow, he'd return to Pete's, not as a customer, but as someone bringing a new beginning. He'd shake Anna's hand, look her in the eye, and tell her she'd reminded him what really mattered. And when she and David stood together, ready to face a brighter future, Kennedy would know he'd honored his mother's legacy, not with words, but with action. The night was fading, but for Anna Carter and her family, a new day was about to dawn, one that would change everything. Anna Carter's eyes fluttered open to the insistent buzz of her phone, her body heavy with the scant 4 hours of sleep she'd managed after her grueling night shift at Pete's fuel stop. Expecting a text from her husband, David, who was likely at another job interview, she was startled to see her boss Pete's name on the screen. "Anna, you need to get to the store now." His voice crackled with urgency when she answered. "It's important." Her heart raced, a mix of confusion and dread tightening her chest. "Is something wrong? Did I mess up the register?" she asked, already swinging her swollen legs out of bed. No, nothing like that," Pete reassured, though his tone carried an odd excitement. "Just come quick, and wear something nice." Anna glanced at her worn maternity pajamas, panic rising. Nice? Her nicest outfit was a navy maternity dress she saved for doctor's appointments, hardly fit for whatever awaited. With David gone, she called her neighbor, Mrs. Lopez, who agreed to drive her. As they approached the gas station, Anna's breath caught 3 news vans crowded the parking lot, their satellite dishes piercing the morning sky. Reporters milled about, cameras ready, while regular customers lingered with coffee cups, whispering curiously. Officer Torres, a local cop who often checked on her during late shifts, was directing traffic, his expression unreadable. "Dios mío," Mrs. Lopez murmured. "What's happening, mija?" Anna shook her head, her mouth dry, the baby kicking restlessly as if sensing her nerves. "I don't know," she whispered, smoothing her dress as she stepped out, legs wobbly. Torres spotted her and waved her toward the side door, blocking a reporter's camera. "No pictures yet," he said firmly. Then softer to Anna, "Go in through the side." Pete's waiting, the side door, rarely used, led to Pete's cramped office. And Anna's confusion deepened as she navigated the narrow path, her hand on her belly to steady herself. Pete stood by the door in an unfamiliar suit, his face splitting into a grin. "Anna, thank God you're here," he said, ushering her in. "Don't be scared, this is good news. Really good." Her pulse pounded. "Pete, does this have anything to do with Senator Kennedy last night?" Pete's smile widened, but he only gestured for her to enter. Taking a deep breath, Anna pushed open the door, the baby giving a strong kick as if urging her forward. The tiny office was packed with people in sharp suits, their faces bright with strange, knowing smiles. But Anna's eyes locked onto the tall figure by Pete's desk. John Neely Kennedy, his presence even more striking in the morning light than it had been at 1 a.m. Mrs. Carter, he said warmly, stepping forward to shake her hand. Thank you for coming on your day off. I hope we haven't alarmed you with all this fuss. Anna's voice trembled as she replied, Senator Kennedy, I don't understand what's happening. He gestured to Pete's chair, the only comfortable one in the room. Please, sit. We've got a lot to talk about. Anna sank into the chair, her mind a whirlwind, the baby's kicks a steady rhythm against her nerves. Kennedy leaned against the desk, his expression earnest. Let me start with a story about my mother, Eleanor. She was a nurse. Worked herself to the bone for us kids. Always with a smile, no matter how tough things got. Last night, watching you at that counter, 8 months pregnant, handling everything with such grace, you reminded me of her. You showed me what real strength looks like, the kind that keeps going when the world's pushing back. Anna's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes as she thought of her own mother, of David's mother, of all the women who'd taught her to endure. Kennedy continued, I stopped at Pete's last night to buy gas, but I was also scouting the chain for a potential investment. After seeing you, I realized I couldn't treat this like just another deal. You changed my perspective, Mrs. Carter. Her heart skipped. Was she about to lose her job? But Kennedy's smile reassured her. So I made some calls, and I've bought Pete's Fuel Stop, the whole Louisiana chain. And I'd like you to meet my legal team. He nodded to a woman in a crisp blazer, who stepped forward with a stack of papers. They've got something for you, but first, he signaled to a man holding a small gift bag, who handed it to Anna. Her hands shook as she opened it, revealing a silver frame with a photo of Kennedy and his mother, both smiling proudly. On the back, an inscription read, To Anna, for reminding me what courage looks like. JNK. Tears spilled down Anna's cheeks. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Kennedy's famous grin flashed. We're just getting started. Before he could elaborate, the door burst open, and David rushed in, still in his interview suit, his face flushed. Anna, Mrs. Lopez called. Are you okay? What's going on? He froze, eyes widening at Kennedy. You're Senator Kennedy. Kennedy extended a hand. Mr. Carter. Perfect timing. We were about to change your wife's life care to join us? David took his hand, dazed, and moved to Anna's side, gripping her hand tightly. The woman with the papers, Miss Reynolds, introduced herself as Kennedy's lead attorney and spread documents across the desk. Mrs. Carter, after your maternity leave, you'll take on the role of regional manager for all Pete's stations in Louisiana. The position comes with a $90,000 annual salary, performance bonuses, and full benefits, including health insurance covering all your pregnancy and delivery costs. Anna's jaw dropped. Regional manager? But I'm just a clerk. Kennedy shook his head. You're a leader. The way you handled those kids last night, the way you treat every customer with respect, that's who I want running these stores. David squeezed her hand, whispering, She's right, Anna. You're incredible. Miss Reynolds turned to David. Mr. Carter, Senator Kennedy has arranged a position for you as a technical maintenance specialist at his Senate office, with a matching salary and benefits. David swayed, and Anna tugged him to sit on the chair's arm. But my interview this morning, he stammered. Kennedy chuckled. Something tells me you won't need it, unless you're set on it. No, sir, David said quickly. I mean, thank you, sir. Kennedy handed Anna another document. This is an educational trust fund for your child. Enough for 4 years at any university, plus graduate school if they choose. My mother believed education was the key to a better life. And I want your child to have that key. Anna pressed a hand to her mouth, sobbing softly, the baby kicking as if celebrating. This is too much, David said, his voice breaking. We can't. You can, Kennedy said firmly. Because this isn't charity. It's an investment in your family, in these stores, in this community. Pete, who'd been watching quietly, stepped forward. Anna's the best worker I've ever had. She'll make an amazing manager. Kennedy nodded. That's why I bought the chain. She showed me what's possible when you see people for who they are. Anna looked up, stunned. You mean you weren't planning to buy Pete's before last night? Kennedy shook his head. I'd looked at the numbers, but it wasn't serious until I met you. You reminded me of my mother's spirit, and I knew I had to act not just for you, but for every worker like you. He cleared the room, leaving just Anna, David, and himself. Sitting at their eye level, he said, the jobs, the trust fund, they're tools. What matters is what you do with them. Your child will grow up knowing their parents never gave up, that they kept their kindness through hardship. That's worth more than anything I could give. Anna wiped her eyes. I want to share this story. People need to know miracles still happen, that there are still people who care. Kennedy smiled. My mother said the same. That sometimes God puts you in the right place at the right time. You were that for me last night. They walked to the door facing a sea of cameras. Anna stood tall, David's arm around her, the baby kicking joyfully. Kennedy addressed the crowd. Meet Anna Carter, a woman who showed me what true strength is. Today, she and her husband prove the American dream is alive. It just needs a little help to thrive. As the story spread, it ignited change across Louisiana: higher wages for Pete's workers, better conditions, and a wave of kindness from others inspired by Kennedy's act. Anna and David faced their future unafraid, knowing their child would grow up in a world where one person's compassion could change everything.